strangely enough. And Zani will be interested. She's the one that kind of brought me to you guys. I learned about street painting because, and it became a huge part of my life. I was a member with this group out here called the Santa Clarita Artists Association, and they had me judging an art contest, and I happened to hear them talk about this street painting opportunity out here that called the Bella Via, and it basically launched my career into the world of street painting. I think that, and that was probably in 1998 or so, when my youngest son was still just like 2 or 3 years old or something. But anyhow, from there, I ended up basically getting so involved with street painting over the last 22 years or so. It just took off. I mean, as far as just getting some attention as far as who I am, you know, you kind of have to stand out in some way as an artist. And so this really made a huge jump in my career artistically, because I don't know, it's just a whole different kind of scenario.
Lorelle, you're going to have some pictures of that artwork later on, right?
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
Why don't we get looking at some of your work so we can get there, since that seems like such an exciting part of what you do.
Okay. Well, this picture here, I do a lot of painting from life. I actually love painting from life probably the most. I do a lot of plein air painting in the California Impressionist style. Here it's a picture of me painting a model that was just in our downtown Newhall area. But I have spent probably, I would say maybe the last 15 years or so really concentrating on painting from life, and done a lot of figure painting and portrait painting and so forth. So that's just a picture right there of me doing that. Next, please. In talking about the types of things I study, I'm studying all the time, and that's probably part of, if you go back to that first one. Oh, sorry. There. This is a still life that I did outside recently, and in my continuing of studying, I study like color theory and so forth. This is not really Henry Henchy's style, but I was really focusing on some of his understanding of color and so forth. So this is just an example of a still life that I just recently done over like about 4 or 5 days, going out at the same time of day and trying to understand the color notes and so forth that I'm seeing. Next, please. And this was a painting that I did just a few months ago of heirloom that I have. And this was a still life set up again inside. Anyway, it's just kind of to give you an idea of some of, I guess I do sort of a broad range of, you know, I don't do just one thing. That's a landscape, or I mean, sorry, that's actually Monterey. You can go next, please. These are just some examples. And I was doing, just to kind of give you an idea of some, how I sort of, what I do is I sort of follow my muse and my interest around. Like during the pandemic, for a while, I was kind of investigating pen and ink and just doing little sketches every day, trying to get a feel for that. Next. And of course, you know, in trying to continue to hone my drawing skills, which, you know, I love to draw, I love to paint. And this is from a sculpture. So studying an actual 3D sculpture inside and trying to really pay attention to my values and, you know, getting the drawing right and so forth. So that's just an example of one that I did. This was a live model that was done more recently. kind of I would say that usually when I'm painting models, it's within about probably about a 2 or 3 hour sitting, possibly. Next, please. And speaking of the social awareness kind of issues, when we were having a lot of problems with social unrest and so forth, I actually set up and did this online, this painting of this young girl, and raised money for some issues in that regard. And this was done pretty fast. This was not from life. This was from my own screen. But anyway, that, you know, I addressed that situation. I guess I paint a lot of times when I get sort of like an angst going on and I need to relieve myself and adjust my mind, quite honestly. So a lot of times I'll go to painting for that purpose. Next, please. And that's my husband. I also do watercolor. I don't mean to sound like such a dabbler, but I just have interests that kind of move. They move around. And so I love watercolor, and I have done it for many, many, many years actually. But I used it a lot when I would be street painting and traveling, because it's such an easy medium to take with you. But this, well, for instance, that little one there is from a place called Ventura, which is near where I live. You know, I'm constantly trying to get better at watercolor. It's really a difficult medium. But yeah, I love it, so I keep doing it anyway. All right, so now we go into street paintings. This is where I get funky. And this is a painting that I did in Sarasota. For the most part, street painting, they call it a modernari. I'm sorry, I just got distracted. A modernari, if I can give you just a little bit of history of what street painting came from and so forth. Street painting was done in Italy. It started pretty much in Italy, I think, around the 15th or 16th century. And people would, and also in England, they were called skeevers, I think. They would draw on the ground, and often it was religious artwork that they would draw or paint, and people would toss money at them. They were basically, I don't know if you know the word buskers, but they would throw coins on their artwork and so forth. And it was a way for them to make their living. So anyway, years ago when I started doing the street painting, eventually I got picked up by a big festival. Well, it started very small in Sarasota. And this is just an example of, I'm sorry, can you go back? Yeah, there. This is an example, because street painting can be all pastels, but it also can be done with tempera paint. And in this picture, I'm actually using tempera paint and working on the ground, and then you can enhance the tempera paint with pastels afterwards. But it's a pretty get down and get dirty type of work. It's very physical, and you know, you're on the ground for, I don't know, I guess some of them you're on the ground for, you know, 12, 14 hours at a time. So it's pretty demanding physically. You can go to the next one. This is just an example. This street painting, which most of them, I'll tell you about the size of them. They're usually about 12 by 12 feet, but some of them are way bigger than that. I've worked on, I think, 2 Guinness Book of World Record pieces, which I can show you further on, but one of them was like over 27,000 square feet. It's huge. It was actually, well, I'll talk about it when we get to that slide, but they can be enormous. But this one is kind of a Mardi Gras type of look. That one was done in Marin, and that's all pastels. So it kind of gives you an idea of what that is, you know, but just the pastels. Let me go back to my notes just here for a second. So I'm just trying to recoup here for 1 second, because I talked about kind of the stuff I do. Okay, so let's move on with the next visual. This painting is actually Gustav Klimt. It's a reproduction. I think one of the things I wanted to bring out about just in this discussion was partially, I'm sorry? I just heard something.
Yeah, just close the door for now, please. Okay.
Anyway, the thing that I gained from working in this arena of street painting and in general, just interacting with so many artists, like you guys are all collecting together as women artists on Zoom now, but on the street, you know, when we were able to do that, you get this great cross-pollination of humans coming from everywhere. You know, the street painting festivals that I would be involved in, a lot of times they would bring people over from other countries and so forth. And by that, the nature of just working around other artists like that is you gain extraordinary knowledge. And then also for myself, in a lot of times these reproductions of masterworks that I did and so forth, you're always gaining more as far as your practicing of drawing and understanding and kind of getting to the head of these very famous artists. So we go to the next one, please. Yeah, that's another example of a reproduction I did. I have done hundreds of these. I used to keep count of how many I've done, and now I've lost count. Some of them are original works. Some of them are masterworks, like the one you see me doing there. But you know, you're studying all the time by reproducing these works. And I mean, as far as just understanding how classical artists used to be taught in the ateliers, by studying sculpture or reproducing masterworks, or and just the exposure to the other artists. I think that that's one of the big things I was trying to talk about today, was just the influence of all of this on me as an artist right now, even just with my own oil painting and pastels and watercolors and so forth. Let's go on to the next. Okay, so this was in Sarasota. And I know it's probably a little hard to see from that slide, but it's a giant megalodon shark. And I'm actually in that mouth there. There's a lot of little people sitting in the mouth of that thing. It was a team effort that took, I think it was about 48 artists working with rollers on the ground, and like paint rollers on the ground. And you actually, in order to see this from the correct perspective, you have to be up in a scaffolding 18 feet up in the air. So I mean, you know, if you're just on the ground, you can't really picture it. And then when you walk it, when you actually walk along this thing, you're walking for, you know, a long time. This is the one that was over 27,000 square feet. And it was an airport runway that was in disrepair. And so they let us use it as a large canvas. And it was done, this one was done with latex paint. And it was designed, I didn't design this, of course. If you go back to that, this was designed by a very famous street painting master named Kurt Wenner, who I have had the fortunate, this again has been a terrific thing for me, because I was able to work with him, and he knows tremendous amounts about geometry and perspective. And so all of this becomes this huge, it's like you're a conglomerate of everything that you're exposed to with these different artists. You can go to the next one. I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but this piece, well, I think I want to, maybe I'll come back to this one. Let me go back. Yeah, okay, well, this is actually a pretty good picture. This is a piece that I designed more recently, right before the pandemic happened. I think this was in November. I coordinated this big piece called The Garden of Wonders, which was inspired by going around to a lot of botanical gardens and doing a lot of plein air painting at botanical gardens. And I thought, wouldn't it be neat to bring that kind of experience to the street as a street art piece? So I worked with, I think we had about 14, 15, 16 people. I coordinated this as it was a big project management kind of thing, where I create the structure for this thing, the idea and concept for it, and then I had the artists all develop their own pieces according to the different continents. We had Antarctica and Africa and all the different continents, and you walked around this thing. And I think we're going to show you a short video on it, but this was probably one of the biggest projects that I myself produced and directed and pulled together, which was a pretty big deal. It was a great thing, and it also included sculpture, because you can't see it on that picture, but there's a little finicle at the top of it. And I don't know what happened to Arlene. There she is.
I'm still here. I'm trying to get the video going.
Oh, thank you.
Second.
Okay.
Can you see it?
No.
You have to share screen again, Arlene, I think.
All right, let me get over here. Sorry.
There you go.
There you go.
You don't see the video yet.
There you go.
Can't see
Oh,
it?
there it is. There it is.
Can I talk over this? You can still hear me, right?
Yes.
Yes. Yes, you can talk over it loudly.
Okay, well, I guess it's not, there we go. This is the drone shot, so you can see the size of this thing. So it's something you can walk all the way around. And actually, all those stones that you see all the way around the thing, those are all hand painted as well. There you go. Anyway, I think you get the idea. So each artist in this thing, they all developed, I developed basically the structure and the idea and concept, and then they all did their own thing and we all put it together. So it was really a wonderful thing to do.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay.
Lots of mistakes here, sorry.
Don't worry.
Revisiting.
Glad you're doing it and I'm not.
Okay, that's where we were.
Okay. So anyway, but I had people from all over the country working on this thing. They were, you know, from Pennsylvania and Texas and like all over the country. I had the executive director of the festival flew all my artists in as a team, and we all put this together. So it was really quite an honor to do this.
Where was it?
This was in Venice, Florida.
Okay.
We can go to the next screen and see what's there. Okay, so this one is just an example of a little street painting piece that I did at a mall, but it's a 3D piece. It's called an anamorphic street painting. And we can go to the next one. That one was done with paint, by the way. And this is another one that was more of an installation type of piece. I called it the Love Boat, where people, I don't know if you can see it that well, but people could actually sit in it. And this is also, again, in Venice, Florida. So this screen here, this kind of goes into a little bit of my teaching stuff, which I do want to kind of go back to the street painting again in a little bit, but I'll touch on some of the teaching that I've done. This was in Norway. I went there to street paint, and I worked at a small atelier for a little bit, teaching. Well, I basically was there for street painting, but also doing some plein air work with some young people, and also live painting from a model. But these young people here, this was at a middle school. This was an amazing thing because these are people who are from Somalia, Russia, and their teacher was from Scotland, and we were in Norway. It was just a weird thing just to have all these different countries, all this stuff, and just all come together in one place and be talking and teaching, you know, art and drawing and painting and pastels and all this. It's just such a universal language. I think that was what was so amazing about that particular moment. We can go next slide. This is in my hometown. Until recently, I teach a lot of seniors, or had been teaching a lot of seniors. I guess I put this slide in here again just to show how, you know, it's ageless, it's universal. The language of art, it crosses, so you all know that. I'm just preaching to the choir, but I think it's just so amazing. We can go to the next slide. CRS Mexico, they would have these kids come in, actually they were from an orphanage, and I was teaching them about doing the street painting. This picture, I think I was back there about a year ago, and then I was there 10 years before that, but how wonderful it was to be teaching in that situation also. Let's go to the next slide. Okay, let's go past this. Okay, this is good because what I want to show you here, and that's part of all that writing stuff, was this is a piece that was designed by Kurt Wenner also. He's the one that did the big shark. And what I wanted to say, and this is a good sort of segue into the idea of the global cross-pollination business that goes on with art. I guess we're all sort of experiencing that to a degree because of the internet, of course. But they had, I can't remember how many countries. We had people from Italy, Japan, Australia. I don't know if we had France, but there was an international team working on this. And the idea that you can bring all these people together, and with all their experience from all their different countries, with all the backgrounds, and then you're all working together to create this huge piece of work, and you're showing each other stuff. Like, you know, it's, imagine if you're all kind of together. And what I think is actually wonderful also about this type of process is that it's a collaborative, not a competitive scenario. You're working together to produce something as a team effort. You know, you're sharing your expertise, you're growing each other. And I think that's the thing that I wanted to probably put forth in talking to you guys more than anything else. I guess that's maybe the thing that's so interesting, is that how much I have been helped by the experience of doing this and kind of gaining so much from these other artists. That huge list that I had on the screen there a few minutes, I wrote down that list of people and all the different things that I felt that they, either through seeing their work or actually interacting with them, the different things that affected me in my understanding of what I'm doing in my process of creating work and art. And I actually have so much support from them, even though we're on separate continents. Even today, you know, I have somebody from the Ukraine who, you know, we talk. If I need some advice or something, there's somebody to go to and talk to about it, which is really wonderful. So let's go to the next screen. This is just an example. These are some of the people that worked on that, that piece. We're all being clowns, but I'm trying to look at the picture here. I think they're from Mexico and Australia and just everywhere. All put forth their magic into this thing. So it's pretty cool. We go to the next screen.
Isn't Sarasota, Florida, where the clown college is?
Yes. This is just some examples. I thought I would put in some of the work. These are some of the people I think that have had a pretty big impact on me. This fellow is Eduardo Aurelio from Spain. And it's a wonderful thing to have somebody who is just, he's an outrageously funny, satirical artist, and he's very supportive of my work. I think it's always amazing, like when somebody that I admire admires what I'm doing, because he kind of blows my mind. Let's go to the next screen if I have another. These are some, it's probably a little hard to see on the screen, but he has a lot of very kind of funny things that he does with painting. And he's from Madrid. But his ability to sketch, he does these fantastic caricatures of people, and just understanding how he handles line. Just something as simple as that. I mean, it's such a great honor to be able to see the work of these people and to get, you know, just the influence of that when I'm sitting there with my little pen trying to figure out what I'm doing. I mean, it's just great to be able to talk to somebody like that who has such command, I guess. Let's go on to the next slide. Yeah, this is his work too. You can see it's pretty funny. Maybe some people will think it's in poor taste, but it's funny. Anyway, let's go on. And this is one of the murals that a friend of mine did in the Ukraine. Some of these people, a lot of the street painters over the years are going more vertical now. Mural works have gotten very popular, and this is Alex, who is from the Ukraine. So I just kind of wanted to show you, he very often comments on my work, and I get interaction from him all the time on work that I do.
Are vertical murals easier to do than flat, straight level work because of the perspective?
Well, it's still hard when you're up close and up high. You know, there's a lot of, you know, what they have done too is through the technology, they use cameras and drones and different things so they can see what they're doing. But I mean, the perspective on the ground I mean, a lot of people you'll see using a grid kind of thing so that they can keep their proportions and all of that sort of thing on the ground. And they do that up on the buildings too. But with enough time, eventually, like for instance, for myself, I don't use a grid. Well, that's not completely true. I use 2 lines. I use a crosshairs just to give myself a sense of placement, but I do not like using a particular grid because I feel very restrained by that. I like to kind of move, but I need at least a couple lines to give myself a sense of where I am. And from there, I like to depend more on my drawing skills and so forth. So, but to answer your question, I think it's probably a toss-up, really, depending on how large these murals are, because they're so huge. You know, you still, it's a different, you know, different can of worms, I think. Let's go to the next slide. Yeah, this is, you can sort of see from this one how large this mural is. That's my friend from the Ukraine. Let's go to the next one. And this is a great master that I have been friends with for years. This is Kong Nguyen. I met him as a street painting artist, but he does tremendous pastel works and oil painting and so forth. And here again, it's the influence. He is very into you know, structure and very specific drawing kind of ideas. But this again is a person that has been able to help guide. Like if I have questions, or for instance, he was doing a watercolor portrait and I was doing a watercolor portrait. And, you know, normally you can't access these people, but because of my association with him as a street painting artist, I can say, hey, what do you think? And he'll give me input, you know, which is like, you know, it's wonderful. Let's go to the next thing. I think, is that, yeah, that's him. That is one of his street paintings. And for instance, just one small little thing, you know, a lot of the street painters will just use a piece of chalk that's, you know, a square, you know, a little rectangular piece of chalk. This guy, he will sit there and whittle his pastels down to a point to do what you're looking at on the screen. I mean, it's that refined. So it gives you an idea of the sensitivity that, you know, he has with all of this. I don't know, do we have any more slides? Oh yeah, well this is, okay. This is a street painting. I've done a lot of commercial pieces for my friend Melanie, who Zani talked about We Talk Chalk. I've been working for them probably for her. I've known her since she's 20 years old, actually, because we met at the Bella Via, and she ended up making this big street painting company, and I ended up working for her at various places. This is a piece that we did for Virginia's 50th anniversary of, I forget if it was a certain town, but this is all done on canvas and with acrylic paint. And then it's rolled up like a big canvas and shipped to wherever it needs to go. But you can run that video if you'd like.
Okay, bear with me, everybody. Oh, where'd the other one go? This one, I got it, I'm sorry. I messed this up.
Lorelle, while Arlene is setting up the video, question. I know you, on the group projects in particular, where you had some 3D, how was that? Was that, did you guys get involved on the 3D portion of it, or were you mostly on the floor, on the street?
Which project are you talking about specifically?
You showed, I don't know if that was, I forget which one it was, but I think you had one of those 3D where it was almost like somebody designed it, and then the artists, and then there was a street art. Was it just a street art for you guys, and then the 3D was already in there, or
We made all of it.
all of it? Oh, wow, that's immense. And those were pre-assigned to different artists, what portion you're going to be working on?
No. That one where you saw, if you're talking about the ones that kind of was like a circus where there were elephants
yeah,
and
the
all of
circus
that. Well, what was very interesting about that piece in particular, he did not give us any color to work with.
Oh
We
my
were
God.
only given value to work with. And then we chose the color that we wanted to use. So it was very interesting, and it's a little hard to explain, but it all worked out basically because of the values all being correct.
That's so impressive.
And
That
he,
and your paintings, you know, whether it's street murals and street art, and your oils and acrylics, they're just so impressive. I'm just really in awe of your paintings. I mean, you're beautiful.
thank
Can you all see the screen now?
Yes.
Okay, let's take a look at the video.
watch me crawl around on my knees. It's probably hard to see. This was done in Las Vegas, by the way.
Wow.
I flew out there on Jet Suite X on a private jet. That's pretty sweet. I guess
Okay, that's it.
Nice.
anyway, are there any other visuals?
I have a question.
Question
Um,
and answer.
I don't know if you can hear me. Are you
I can.
able, are you able to go back up, Arlene, to the one with the elephants in it?
Yeah, let me get this in the right view. Okay, and we want to go back to that one, Nancy?
No, elephants. That one.
Oh,
Okay,
Yeah.
I can't exactly figure this out. And it's kind of driving me crazy because
All
it looks like there's real stuff in the background.
Let me explain.
So-
I'll try to explain it to you. Okay.
Okay, is it flat?
All right. It's a real trick the eye kind of situation. Okay. This again, let me just say, is something that is viewed from above, up high. I forget if it's, I don't know if it was, I don't think it was 18 feet high, but it may have been 10 feet high in the air. So where we're sitting, you see all the people that are sitting on the ground. That is the flat space. Where you see in those big arches that you see are actually up on the scaffolding. If you look, I put my hands, I know I'm lagging on here, but if you're my hands right now are like the arches. Okay, do you see what I'm saying? They are on the side of the camera, so you're looking at them and they're connecting to what's beneath it as an illusion, if that makes any kind of sense. Does it?
So the scaffolding or the arches are three-dimensional?
They're flat, but they're way up high.
Huh.
They're photographed up near where the camera is shooting from. But they're not 3D. No, they're not 3D. They
Oh,
are,
it's not 3D?
no, they're not 3D. They are flat. They look 3D.
Amazing.
And then what actually is interesting too, if you look at that image, in the very far back, at where the last arches are, there's a little stage back there where people actually, that is actually vertical.
Yeah, they're vertical, the scaffoldings and, you know, the walls, right? But the elephants, are they 3D?
No.
That, okay, so
No.
that's the part that's
The arches are two-dimensional. They are not 3D.
Oh, they're not either?
No, it's all flat. It's an
Because we
illusion.
can see the people behind it. Yeah.
How do you, Lorelle, this is amazing and my brain is just.
I know, it's hard. It's hard. Even when I was there in it, it was like, wait a minute, what?
But how is it figured out and drawn correctly, or at least sketched correctly? I mean, especially the one of the shark that went on for like miles.
Right. Well, I can explain it to a point. First of all, one thing that's interesting about it is that with these huge projects like the shark, the whole space is basically that has to be done with a grid. Even with the one with the elephant, that we had big pieces of cardboard that were like 3 by 3 square, and they do, like, let's say they would put, you know, those long tape measures that you see the guys out there on the street using. They'll mark them off and they know what goes in each square. So it's basically like the gridding technique on here. But the thing with this type of scenario is that even with the grid, even with a piece of paper or a guide, that only takes you so far. When you're on site, you have to make adjustments, if that makes sense.
And are you working with the person next to you?
Yeah.
Make sure that it lines up properly, or how does
Well,
that?
it kind of, what happens is that it's all kind of like this thing, it's all coordinated. There's a lead artist that's coordinating like the colors and so forth. Like I said, with that elephant one, what was very interesting to me is that, and we were guided by this master architect, basically, Kurt Wenner, because his brain is, he's really brilliant. I mean, it's just really, like I said, the influence and understanding that you get from just even being around these people, because I mean, I'm not that smart. But just being able to understand the geometry and how he coordinated all of us and yet let us do our thing, because there were no colors that were said, put red here. No. We just followed basically, because we were basically chosen to work on this project, so we understood values and enough, we have enough understanding that we just were able to go in and follow the guidance, and that's how it comes out. But it's not predestined.
I think the teamwork between you, especially and the one beside you, is really, you know, challenging, because at least the two of you really need to blend in as you go along, in particular.
Well, it's just all been an incredible learning experience. And like I said, I think what?
How temporary are these? How long are they up?
Well, the one that shark one actually was last November. They renovated it. They actually repainted it because of being in Florida with all the hurricanes and all that sort of thing. You know, it even though it was done with latex paint, it, you know, it goes away, it degrades after a while. So that one was renovated. This one with the elephants probably stayed up for a while, but the ones, for instance, that are used with pastels, those can be, as soon as you're finished it, they can wash them away with a big fire hose.
Oh, that's terrible.
That is the art. The art is, it's generally speaking, it's an ephemeral art form.
It is.
It is.
I don't know how, they're works of art. They really are. Like
They
you see
are.
these sand sculptures that are done on the beach and they
Exactly.
wash
Yeah.
away and it's
Right.
all ephemeral.
Right.
Like Buddhist monks who do those mandalas out of sand.
Right.
Yes,
Exactly.
yes,
Exactly.
that too.
It's the same thing. Yeah.
Lorelle, what happens to the structure, the piece that had the three-dimensional structure with the continents? What happens to that structure?
The structure, what's really cool about that is that the walls, because of the festival being on for so many times, these walls that they have, like those walls that you see that are all
Right.
put together, they'll be whitewashed or painted over, and then they use them again for another piece.
And these are wood panels with some kind of metal frame that they're on?
They're wood. What was really neat is we had a carpenter, and he managed. I mean, it was really fantastic because we had a huge, I had actually architects working with me to get this thing planned out, and then the carpenter put these walls together, and yeah, it's wood on the inside.
So they're all temporary works of art. Now you
Yeah.
see them, now you don't.
Right.
That's a shame because they're really magnificent.
Yep.
No
That's
storage issue.
Yeah, I mean, if I think about, I have thought about that because I've done, tons of, I have a lot of art in my studio anyway. And if I added all my street painting, I'd have to like move. Oh yeah, that's my friend Melanie in the middle. We did a project for Coors. And actually the other woman on the side named Anat, she's a fantastic, amazing muralist. She is just a force of nature. So, it's just, I mean, I can't express enough how just the world that I was able to get involved with, how it has just really propelled me, I guess, artistically, and I miss it a lot right now.
Yeah.
It's hard.
Lorelle, so those are collaborative projects. So do that's what I think, maybe that's what you're missing. Just the collaboration of working with a group of artists.
outside of US, there's no street art festivals going on. They're
Yeah,
all good.
there are some. I mean, I do a lot. A lot of times, a lot of the pieces. Some of the pieces are team projects. Some of them you're just like working next to each other. But most of the festivals have put a hold on everything right now.
But they're all outdoor.
How are we doing on time, Arlene? Just let us know.
I think we can go a few more minutes.
So I don't know if you have any other questions or not, but if I spoke to what I was supposed to speak to.
30, yeah.
Well, you have you just have a couple more
people.
slides if you want to just look
Okay.
at them. So do you see
Are
this?
photos of these on your website?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah.
Okay,
This is
I want
Mel-
to show
this
my
is
husband.
Melanie. Oh, this is Leon Kier. He has done projects in Dubai, and this is just a little thing he did. He does humongous murals all over the place. It's just, yeah, like this one.
Wow.
Actually, this one, what was really cool about this one, and I didn't give Arlene this one, but he actually animated, he was able to animate this. They have a program so that the cups all look like they're getting broken.
Yeah, so that's an animation?
No, this is a painting that he did. I'm saying that he animated it after he did the mural.
Oh,
Wow, that looks like a 3D.
Well, yeah, but it isn't.
It's beautiful.
Incredible.
I mean, this guy actually encouraged me. That guy told me, Lorelle, go for it. When I did my big garden piece. You know, it's just like the support of somebody like that is priceless.
Nice.
So anybody else have any questions before we say goodbye to?
I
Rob?
have one question. So the pastel work, there isn't one that is preserved for all eternity. They're all just washed away with the weather.
Well, I mean, people do sometimes do pastels on the ground that are on a substrate where it will be saved. That does happen. You know, it just depends. It's not just one way. It's not all the same. But for the most part, like there's a very famous street painting festival in Italy. And the town is Curatone. My pronunciation is probably atrocious, but that is probably one of the oldest festivals. And those are all done in pastels, and they're, you know, they work 24 hours. They work through the night and get it done. And they're washed away. But on occasion, people will do things where it will be on some type of material where they save them, just like, you know, any other pastel. So.
Laurel, thank you. Thank you so much. I'm
Thank you.
blown away.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, good. I'm glad you liked it. I appreciate being able to present myself to you guys.
Amazing. So impressive, Lorelle.
Thank you.
Bravissimo.